As we headed into the fall last year, it became evident through what was coming in as far as gifts and ties and where we were from an operational budget perspective, that we were headed in a direction we didn't want to be going. I want to do a huge shout out to Ron, who was freshly on board at that time, and not only was giving us good financial information about where we stood, but started providing the board with forecasting information about, okay, if we continue in this fashion, this is what it's going to look like. And we were even provided as a board mitigations, if you will. He couched them as difficult decisions that we would have to consider to be able to continue to operate, in a sustainable way. And fortunately, what I can say is through work with staff and volunteers, the board was able to hold a consciousness of abundance and come forward with a program that really I can't say enough about the staff's ability to move and adjust and be creative in addressing what was going on. And what came out of the efforts was a program for year-end giving. And there were 3 goals that were established as part of this. One was to look at what we were going to manifest with regard to gifts and ties through the end of the year, as well as promoting people to start contributing that hadn't been before, and also increasing the folks that were participating in automated giving. And we felt like all 3 of these efforts were could work in concert at improving our position. And so I am extremely happy to be able to say that not only did we put forward an ambitious goal of raising $225,000 by the end of the year, but we exceeded that. The actual amount was a little over $234,000 that, through the generosity and consciousness of our congregation, we were able to receive, and has not only put us within budget, but we've actually exceeded a budget. When we adopted the budget that starts October 1 for the year, we recognized the effects of COVID-19, also, operating without a senior minister, and how we were going to budget for that year considered those things. And so it was a very conservative budget. And so I'm happy to state that as a result of the efforts of everyone through the end of the year, we are now 20% ahead of our budget at the end of Q1. So thank you. God bless you. Yeah, woo woo. We are well poised for a good 2021. And then the last piece around that was to increase our number of first-time givers, folks that had not been participating at the level of financial contribution to the church. And we set a goal of 50 new congregants, and we had 54 new congregants give in the last quarter of this year. And so we exceeded that one as well. And so all over, it was a very successful piece. I want to give a lot of credit to staff, to Ron, Tammy, to everybody that participated in the communications around it, our dashboards with the little thermometers, all of that was very constructive. And so we're grateful. And as a result, we're well positioned moving into 2021. And there's a lot that's going to be happening in 2021. So I'd like to move on to another piece, and that looking forward, you all should be aware. If not, I'll make you aware that we had received a first round PPP grant loan, which 100% of that was forgiven. It was a $114,000 loan last year, and 100% was forgiven. And again, kudos to Jean Lean, our former finance director, who was proactive and got the application in right away, and her establishing the protocols around that, and then Ron finishing that out and successfully, submitting everything to our bank and us receiving that. So thank you all for that amazing work. We are prepared. Board has taken a poll and supports us applying for a second round of PPP loans. And Ron's actually working this weekend on it. And as soon as we're able to submit, we will. You know, we really feel that those loans were utilized, the initial loan was utilized in true accordance with the nature and spirit of the PPP, and that was to keep ourselves staffed through these economic difficult times of the pandemic, and it has worked. We have not had to lay off people due to financial constraints, and so we're grateful for that. Another piece around finance that we're being proactive around, and again, credit to Ron to identifying this. We are applying for, and it looks like we'll get an EIDL loan. Now, I have renamed that loan. The loan is called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, but we're not going to get one of those. We're going to get an energetically inspired divine loan. And what's great about this is it's at a lower interest rate than our primary bank note. And so it makes sense to take this loan at a lower rate, and we can pay off principal with that, and then we'll service that debt at a lower rate. And so we're doing everything we can to, again, posture ourselves well into 2021, take advantage of everything that's available out there financially so that we are sound and we are operating in a sustainable manner. Enough with finances. Another big deal that we're working on is our new senior minister search. And it's been very exciting. You know, we have 3 different teams that are working on that we've spoken about, and they've been working hard. We had received a number of applications, and actually the teams had done a couple of interviews prior to the end of the year. And then after the first of the year, we received a few more applications, which is great. And so our candidate pool has expanded. More interviews are ongoing. The committee is going to do probably 2 interviews for anybody that they would like to recommend to the board for further consideration. And of course, if you know, once all the vetting and the interviews and reviews and so forth have gone through, and there's a candidate that the board feels like is a potential right choice for us, then we'll bring forward that person or those people to the congregation so that they can listen to a service, have a meet the minister session, and then provide feedback to the board so that when we make our decision, it's an informed decision about the congregation and where the congregation is with regard to that consciousness. So it's an exciting process. And we've got a lot of activity going on there, and we'll keep everybody updated on that as we move forward. I'd like to quickly touch on reopening. You know, we made the decision a few weeks ago to go ahead and close in-person services again. It was a difficult decision. We did it, we feel, from an informed and responsible place, not out of fear, but out of a proactive choice to do everything that we could to mitigate potential spread of the virus and to support the local healthcare entities that are dealing with really heavy hospitalization rates. And so we have latitude in how we operate relative to a decision matrix that our reopening team spent a lot of time developing, which we really love and are grateful for that input and framework. And we're operating in accordance with that. And we plan to continue to move forward, recognizing that. But our goal is we want to reopen as soon as possible. We recognize that need for connection, for being in a space with each other, but we want to do it in a responsible fashion. And so we'll continue to keep people updated. At this point, we're not planning on making any changes in the immediate future, but we're keeping an eye on everything, and we will reconsider at least at every meeting, if not earlier, monthly board meeting, if not earlier, depending upon changing conditions. But things have not improved yet in Austin, Travis, Williamson County, but I'm optimistic that they will, and I'm sure we all are as we move into this year. So that's an ongoing piece that we continue to pay attention to, be informed of, and are ready to make changes. I do want to encourage everybody to come and utilize the grounds. The church grounds are not closed. And so, we have our labyrinth, our garden, our meditation spaces, our places to come and interact. We've got our new angel wings. And so spend some time on the campus. It's such a beautiful, sacred space. I just want to encourage that. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about the board retreat. Every year the board does a retreat. And, what we do is we spend a day in contemplation and visioning work and brainstorming and heartstorming around, what is ours to do for this year. This year we delayed it a little bit. Usually it's a little bit earlier in January, but due to schedules, we delayed it till a little bit later in January. But we have a number of things that I plan on bringing into that. And I want to have an opportunity for some input as well from people on the call. Some of the things that we're going to be discussing, of course, one of our primary objectives this year is to identify and onboard a new senior minister or ministers. That's primary. We also are going to be looking, of course, at our financial stability into and through 2021. We're always keeping an eye on our strategic vision plan. And then also this year, there's been a desire to take a fresh look at our bylaws. And so we're going to be going in and looking in our bylaws, particularly around some of the things around board qualifications, around nominating team qualifications, and floor nomination procedures and so forth. And so that's something that we're going to be discussing as well too. One piece I would like to add, we have scheduled for February a board training session. I think this is my 4th term on the board, and we've never had any sort of board training activity with the Unity Church of the Hills board. And so that's something new that we're going to be doing this year, so that we are operating at the highest possible level as we can be for the benefit of the congregation and community. And so we take that seriously, and we're willing to invest our time and energy into that so that hopefully we're serving you as best as we can. One of the things I will put forward as a prompt for you to think about is I would love to have input about, considerations for this upcoming year when we open things up for conversation. I've got 2 more things to cover, and then I'd like to open it up. One is one of our board members, Laura Zulke, has submitted her resignation. She has had some significant life changes that involve a new significant other and a young child and career changes and a lot going on in her life. And so she has decided that it is best for her to step down from the board, and we fully lovingly support her. We're going to miss her energy and her dynamism and attitude and approach to everything, but definitely see her moving into a new time and a new space for her, and support her in that. And Art, who is our nominating team representative, is going to talk a little bit about how we're going to fill that opening. The board has a responsibility within 90 days of vacancy to appoint a new board member. So Art, I'll hand that over to you.
Well, thanks, Frank. There's a couple of faces on board here right now that I consulted with immediately when Frank made that announcement about Laura. Tammy and Joni are here today. And I also consulted with a number of people. Rick Busby, I consulted with, we actually tried to reach out to people that might have had some thoughts from our former nominations board. Who would be interested in serving at this time? We took that quite seriously, actually, in asking people for names, possibilities. And after pursuing that a while, several people were, gave us their best wishes, but they didn't feel it was convenient for them or apropos at this time. The good news is Lori Peak, I don't know how you pronounce her last name correctly, but we know Lori as and an advocate for music, herself work with celebration. I was interested in, Lori has been on the team to do counting for the last 2 years when we had people present and we needed to have counters. And she's been an active person that we could verify with Ron and others that making contributions to our church. So Lori voiced a willingness, talking with Frank and me, to step forward and serve temporarily in Laura's place. And this is wonderful. And her energy will really be quite welcome because she's someone I admire as an athlete and a businesswoman and a person with real energy that could help our board.
Thanks, Art. Yes, I have to say, and Art didn't really go much into Lori's business background, but has a significant business background as well too, that she's going to bring, and so we're looking forward to that presence as well on the board. So we're excited about new energies and as we head into 2021 with all that's going to be going on. I wanted to do another shout out to Kay Christopher. One of the things that we wanted to do was reach out to folks that had maybe stepped back a little bit during the pandemic, during this time that we're operating virtually. And Kay and others, took an interest in this and came up with an idea to follow through and contact folks that hadn't been with us for a while. And Kay I got to know Kay when last October, or a year ago October, I should say, we started walking through some really challenging times when we lost our senior ministers, and worked on walking through and recovering that. And her consciousness and diligence and attention to detail was brought to this reaching out to congregants, and it led to some really amazing conversations. I'm optimistic that spaces that have been opened and will continue to open around that. And we received reports back from her that we're going to be discussing and so forth at our retreat. And I'm just grateful. So Kay, you're on the call, I see. Thank you so much for that energy. We have people that have attended here for many years that have had difficulty with the transitions, with the move to virtual spaces. And so to reach out and check in and touch base and let people know that we care about them. And, we want to support them on their spiritual paths, no matter what. The last thing I wanted to talk about was our Prosperity Plus program, which is an exciting thing. I've already gotten into the reading a little bit about it, and it's going to cover all sorts of spiritual laws on supply, attraction, increase, non-resistance, forgiveness, sacrifice, so many things. And so I'm really excited about that process and pursuing spiritual law from yet another perspective, and holding that space for our congregation of really seeing everyone moving to this greater and greater alignment with spiritual laws and the realization of the blessings that result from that, which will again result in all of us prospering at many levels, and so we're grateful for that.